are the New York Knicks. We are the New York Knicks. We are the New York Knicks. We are the New York Knicks. Say go New York, go New York, go.
Cut the music, cut that shit, cut it off. Alright, I'm gonna be straight up, guys. I am tired of living in New York. And no, it's not because of the Tatianas. It's because I'm a Knicks fan. Someone please let their front office know they cannot both try and be competitive as well as developing the young talent. Although not snagging that #1 pick in last year's draft, the Knicks fell to the 3rd spot and picked up RJ Barrett. Now, the sky's the limit for RJ. He can ball. So you would think the Knicks would establish a young core for the future. You know, to build around RJ, Mitchell Robinson, Kevin Knox, and one of their young point guards in Dennis Smith Jr. or Frank Ntilikina, or even Alonzo Trier prior to waiving him. But no, during the 2019 offseason, the Knicks were predicted to have Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and Zion Williamson, and if you're a New Yorker, you know that was all a lie. As instead, we got a dark wave of depression, as the Knicks instead signed Julius Randle to a 3-year, $62 million contract. Now, Randle is no scrub, but he is nor a star either. He is a contributing piece to a championship contending team. And I don't believe you will see the best out of Julius Randle on this Knicks squad. But he did finesse the Knicks into guaranteeing $40 million. The one signing of this offseason, though, was the acquiring of Taj Gibson on a 2-year, $20 million contract. For those who don't know, Taj Gibson is 35 years old and well out of his prime. But instead, he started 56 games this year, playing 16 minutes per game, taking vital minutes away from Mitchell Robinson. In fact, all of the minutes for the Knicks' promising young core were severely cut to make room for vets to attempt a playoff push. But it failed, as the Knicks only won one more game than they did last year. The Knicks have been disappointing since the 2012-2013 season, which were their last playoff appearance. Unfortunately, the Knicks have not seen success or growth since. Similar teams like the Grizzlies, the Kings, Hawks, and even Pelicans are notorious for being awful teams in recent years. But they have made the right moves to set their organization up for a bright future. And for the Knicks, year after year after year, they play for the hottest prospect coming into the league. Unfortunately, they could have followed a plan through intelligent trades and development of the young talent, as well as acquiring a consistent head coach. That should have been their game plan. After trading Carmelo Anthony to the OKC Thunder for Enes Kanter, Doug McDermott, and a 2018 pick that turned out to be Mitchell Robinson, this should have been the turning point in which Scott Perry and Steve Mills realized it is time to rebuild, but only if it was that easy. Teams like the Grizzlies trade away Mike Conley and Marc Gasol to have a young core in Jaren Jackson Jr. and John Moran, as well as the Hawks trading away Dennis Schroeder to invest in Trae Young. The Kings trade away DeMarcus Cousins for Buddy Hield to eventually pair with De'Aaron Fox. And the Pelicans trade away their superstar in Anthony Davis for an entire new core. The Knicks' young core of Mitchell Robinson, RJ Barrett, Kevin Knox, Frank Ntilikina, and Dennis Smith Jr. All of their minutes have been severely cut for the vets that they signed this offseason. Like I said, Julius Randle is making $18 million this year and $62 million over the next 2 years. But his field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, and points per game were all down this year, while having career highs in turnovers, minutes played, and field goal attempts. The Knicks sure know how to pick them, while also giving out bad contracts to Bobby Portis, Taj Gibson, and Alfred Payton. It is very confusing to see where the Knicks are headed. Okay, just to highlight some of the most questionable decisions the New York Knicks have made in recent history. On January 31st, the New York Knicks traded the superstar in Kristaps Porzingis. You know, this is a once in a lifetime talent you have on your hands, but we got rid of him for an unproven prospect in Dennis Smith Jr. Now, I know Porzingis had requested the trade initially, but as the Knicks front office, you do not have to honor that trade. You have Porzingis under contract for at least one more year, and you should work on convincing your superstar to stay with the team. I know at one point Kobe wanted to get traded from the Lakers when he was beefing with Shaq, but the Lakers held on to him. They held on to Kobe, and you see how that went. Alright, now, due to injury and off-court issues, Dennis Smith Jr. has been nothing but a shell of himself. Now, in the 2013 draft, the Knicks picked up a overlooked shooter in Tim Hardaway Jr. at the 24th pick, but then they eventually traded him to the Atlanta Hawks in 2015. But then they re-signed him in 2017 just to trade him away again in 2019 in the Porzingis trade to Dallas. Yeah. That's the Knicks for you. Once you think we're headed one way, nope, we're headed back. Put that bitch in reverse. Oh, you thought that was it for bad decisions? Nope, we got some more for you. Alright, now the 2018 draft arrives. And with the number 9 pick, the New York Knicks select Kevin Knox. Now, at the time, Knox was looked at as a player with a very high ceiling. And we all knew Michael Porter Jr. was in this draft as well. And with his back injuries, we thought Kevin Knox would be the player that Michael Porter Jr. was supposed to be. But it turns out the roles were flipped and Michael Porter Jr. is a goddamn star. And Kevin Knox is struggling to get minutes in this Knicks rotation. Although it is a bad rotation, don't get me wrong, he should be getting minutes, but the Knicks don't know what the hell they're doing. And in my opinion, with Michael Porter Jr. in that draft, you gotta take him. Being the New York Knicks, being in New York City, you have to take the chance. You have to take the chance. New York is in desperate need of excitement and thrill inside Madison Square Garden. So James Dolan, we gonna be on your ass till you do something, my boy. You know, people like to say that sports come full circle, you know, you replace the old with the new. And the Knicks have been complacent for way too long. They're confused whether to be competitive with seasoned vets and compete in the playoffs or be a horrible team while developing the young talent. Unfortunately, they are stuck in the middle doing neither, giving out outrageous contracts and abandoning the young core. They did all this to be 21-45. The Knicks are 21-45 while not giving their young players experience. Sounds like the Knicks though, right? This brings me to the conclusion that James Dolan does not want the best for the most valuable team in the NBA. It is to believe that he doesn't care to improve this team either. This team hasn't been to the finals since the 1999-2000 season and have not been to the playoffs since the 2012-2013 season. You know, with subpar teams developing around us, it is time to expose James Dolan for being the worst owner in sports. So the Knicks have hired Leon Rose as their new GM to pair with Scott Perry to help him turn around this team, as well as hiring Tom Thibodeau as their new head coach. In my opinion, nothing will change until Dolan is gone. Unfortunately, he owns MSG Network, which broadcasts Knicks games, as well as Madison Square Garden. But as a Knicks fan, we can only hope for brighter days. So make sure you guys like and subscribe so we can evict James Dolan and get some actual change in New York City. Alright, NBA Addict TV, we are out of here. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you niggas tomorrow.